Good morning, Doug here from the Hundredfold Journey. Thanks for joining us on this Sundays with Doug, where we come alongside on your journey and give you some truths to live by to help you to rewire your brain, build new habits, and create a new identity. Because a hundredfold is about a group of people who are looking to find their true identity, and by doing so, finding God's true identity. So thanks for joining us this morning. Each week we talk about the 10 truths, and these 10 truths were true for Jesus, and therefore they're true for us, because as he is, so I am in this world. And each week I remind us to memorize, to apply, and meditate upon these truths as they come up during the week. And one thing we've started recently is having us share from this last week what a 10 truth experience that you guys have had. So for those that are online, if you want to jump in and share a 10 truth that you experienced this last week. So who would like to go first? Anybody?
I don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead, Ronnie.
We were just talking about it. So basically, within this last week, something that I realized is, that I have no control over anything, regardless. And my old past used to be, really of confronting people straightforward and, argumentative, however it may be. But within this last week, I found out, you just said it, circumstances don't matter. And that's what I've been in within this last week, well, last few weeks, whatever. But this whole last week showed me that, the circumstances don't matter. Only the state of being matters. And what really matters about that is how I conduct myself when I'm talking with other people and how I'm going through things. So if the conversation has to take longer for me to see for the other side to see the view where I'm coming from, then so be it. Because I realize that not all of us can know what's going on in somebody else's house or
very true. Yes.
Anywhere, so they probably have their own issues, and I'm bringing on my issues. I don't know if that person's bringing their issues to work, and it's kind of the same way it makes me think. If I'm out there truck driving, I can't take my issues at home to work because it can foul up other people out there. So I'm really getting along with this. Circumstances don't matter. It's how I can what do you call it? How I can break it down from happening. It starts with the D. I can't think of the word. Anyway, but yeah, so it is really only state of being that matters nowadays. Right. On how you respond to somebody else. Would you want them to respond to you in a negative way?
Yep.
So it's more of, my buddy yesterday, he took me for a walk and he left me. I was like, oh, you dirty. You're so dirty. You just left me out here, this old man, and he's like, I'm sorry, bro. But it was a good thing, it wasn't too far away. But I'm learning that what he showed me too yesterday was we went for a walk, but he had a matter that came up and he had to leave, but he didn't tell me, he just left, but what I learned from that is everybody has something going on in their life.
Very true. That's right.
And you never know what that is. And sometimes they're not going to talk or say about it. They're just going to do what they do.
Yep.
And that used to be the old me where I used to do what I just did, because, but now I'm learning to, I have unlimited possibilities and resources from it.
There you go. Yeah. And life is a mirror which reflects back what you truly believe and think. And as he left you, normally, historically, because I know you would have gotten really angry and upset, but you allowed that to cycle through and you didn't allow it to control you. And then you just accepted it for what it was, because circumstances don't matter, only state of being matters. So it reflected that you have changed. So that's where that truth, it's that mirror that says, have I really changed? Am I a new creation? And then you see it, right? So very good. Okay, anybody else would like to share before we move on?
I was just going to say that a few days ago, we ended up taking a spontaneous trip to the beach. And at first I kind of didn't want to go. I was like, no, I'm kind of stuck in the way of like too much to do and it seems a little too out of the way. And then I kind of forced myself to just be there in the moment. And once I got there, I mean, it was beautiful. And
Mm,
so it really was like today, right now is the best moment of my life. I only have this moment. I don't know if I have tomorrow. I don't have yesterday. So it was really nice to just be there and accept that and kind of like let my worries just
I love
go
it.
away.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, because right now, today, this moment is the best moment of my life, and we can find reasons why. I'm here with you guys. I'm doing what I love to do, which is teach and share. So today, right now, so I love the fact that you recognize that, even though it was maybe, I'll use the word difficult to get to that spot, but then you did, and then you realized, yeah, very good.
Hey, Rachel, I like how you said that you didn't want to go, but you forced yourself to go, and you actually found a better outcome out of by going rather than being in your own self. And I do that to myself. Like I said, that guy that my neighbor, he was like, "Let's go for a walk." I'm like, "No, no, I heard too much. This ain't gonna happen." So I like that. But always keep moving. That's I can give that, man. Keep moving forward.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
So where we're at right now is we're talking about what our true identity is, right? So the series that we are in is as he is, so am I. So everything that he is, I am. And this is the way God views us as his bride. But as we go through these different identities of who we are, we do come across some roadblocks as to, is that really true for me? And I know some of this is review, but uh, what we tend to do is that we look at ourselves in the incorrect way. We look at ourselves from the outside in versus the inside out. So if you look at who you are as an individual, you have your real self, your damaged self, and your facade self. The facade self is like the egg, the outside of the egg. It's that hard shell that is hard to penetrate through, and it's the masks that we wear. I'm never going to be good enough, and life is going to be hard. These are all facades and the damaged self. But the real self that's inside of us, the way that God has designed us, it tells us our true identity, which is I'm his bride, I'm loved, um, I'm holy, I'm blameless. But because we're looking from the outside in, we can't see that. So what we need to do is see it from God's point of view, right? And making sure that we're seeing it in the correct way. So what that causes us to do is that we have to do the hard work of looking through the facade, the walls I have built up, and allow the truth to break through to see who I truly am. In other words, break the egg, break the lie of the facade that you have that you created for yourself, right? And that facade is, God doesn't love me. I'm never going to be good enough. We've got to break through that and see that those are lies. Those are not the truth. So what ends up happening is, and we reviewed this last week, so I'm not going to review it again, but we have to control the thoughts that we have and not live out of fear or out of religion. Instead, what we need to do is we need to break through those pillars, if you will, that are holding us back, that we're chained to, and we need to become free of that. And the way we do that is through love, being in love and in Christ, and recognizing that's our true identity. It's not out of fear, it's out of love, because fear and love cannot coexist. It's either one or the other. So that's what we're doing for this series that we're in. It's called The Heart of a Hundredfold, Everything He Is, I Am. So what I'd like to do is jump to where we're at, which is 21 Days of Identity. So there's a book that I actually wrote, and it talks about 21 days of identity. And every single day for 21 days, you read a chapter in this book, and it reminds us of who we are and what our identity is, because we're created for the purpose to know your identity, to open your eyes, to experience Holy Spirit. So God's Spirit is in us. How do we recognize that? How do we know that that's our true self, the one that's inside of us already, but that's been buried down? We don't listen to that voice. How do we break that through? And the way we do that is through understanding the way God designed us. And here's the 21 days of identity. These are our true identity. And of course, there's a lot more, but these are the ones that I've identified. So each of these sessions, we're going to be talking about those. The first one was His chosen. We covered that last week. His possession, we covered that last week, right? So we did 2 last week, and we'll probably do 2 or 3 depending on the time here. But again, we have to break through the facade. We have to get down to our real self and who we are. Okay, so today we actually jump to His bride. And this goes back to that picture. So just kind of imagine your the bride as we're reading this. And as I read this, I'm reading this from the book. And if there's anything that you want me to stop or have a question for, please be sure to share that, okay? So again, our next, which is day 3, we're talking about his bride. And this is stated in Revelations 21 verse 2. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, made ready as a bride adorned for her husband. So this is describing me. It's describing us, is that we are His bride, and it's coming down from God into us. So what comes to mind when you think of a traditional wedding? A traditional definition of a wedding as the first marriage for both male and female. The groom stands at the altar with his bride dressed in a white gown. The white gown is a reflection of who she is, pure, set apart, a virgin. This is the view that God has for His bride. He has dressed you, adorned you, and prepared you for your husband, the Lord Jesus Christ. In your mind's eye, imagine a church with pews full of people and the groom in his tuxedo awaiting his bride. Imagine as the music starts, you enter the room in your white gown and veil. The people in the pews stand and the groom gleams with excitement. He is so amazed at your beauty. You are completely his and he is completely yours. He is so in love with you. He stepped out of heaven for you. In fact, he endured the suffering of the world, taking on all your sins so that he could have you just to himself. And now the ceremony seals your relationship for all eternity. Now the two of you can celebrate your love and show the world the love you have for one another. He lifts your veil, looks into your eyes with his loving kindness and says, I, Jesus, take thee, my bride, to be my wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish till death do us part, according to God's holy ordinance, and I pledge my faith and I pledge myself to you. So for those that are listening, can you kind of visualize that in your head and just think of the groom looking down at his bride, or not down, but looking at his bride and just in pure love and affection, and then devoting himself to you with these words. This is God's vow to you: love, honor, and cherish. Your natural response to your groom is to say the vow back to him, not because you have to, but because you want to. You are completely in love with him because he has demonstrated that love for you by giving his life for you, Romans 5:8. Yet his vow to you is faithful, true, and will never end. Rest in the fact that he has vowed his love for you completely, even before time began. And just a little digression from that is sometimes we think it's because of our words to him, our vow to him, that seals the deal, right? But it's his words to us, and he's vowing his love, his faithfulness to us. And because these are God's words, God's not breaking his word. I might break my word, but he never breaks his word. So we can rest in knowing that I am his completely forever. So when you know you are loved and adored this much, your only response is, yes, I do. I take this man as my husband to love and adore him. As we all know, the adventure truly begins after we say those words. It's an adventure of getting to know one another. We find out what's important and what's not. Yet through all the ups and downs life throws at you, you know you are going through life as one. Genesis 2:24, and love conquers all. 1 Corinthians 13:8. In John chapter 4, Jesus encounters a woman at a well. She has 5 husbands and she is living with the 6th. Jesus speaks to her kindly and gently. This woman recognizes that he is a prophet. She senses a love and concern for her life. Jesus asks her to get her husband and return. She plainly states that she does not have a husband. Jesus does not stop the conversation. He does not walk away. He does not condemn her. His only interest is setting her free. By continuing the discussion, she has now realized that this man knows everything about her, yet still loves her and indeed has set her free. Jesus, in this case, became the 7th husband, 7 being the number of perfection. Hear this truth for yourself. She could not know that she was truly loved until she knew she was truly understood. I'll say that again. She could not know that she was truly loved until she knew she was truly understood. You are that woman. You are full of regret and self-condemnation for the things you have done. Shame has stopped you from reaching out to God. But this man, Jesus, knows all of that. He knows you completely, and he loves you completely, and wants to set you free from that pain, sorrow, and regret. The pain of thinking you could never be loved because of your past mistakes and feeling of unworthy. Jesus understands you completely more than you know. He chooses to remember your sins no more, to make you as white as snow, to be your husband, and for you to be his beautiful bride in that white gown. Allow him to love on you and humble yourself enough to accept it. Right? So can you imagine the woman at the well? She says, yeah, but, right? You're saying that you love me, but you truly don't understand me. I've had 5 husbands and I'm living with the 6th husband, with the 6th man. Right? If you really knew that about me, you wouldn't love me. And what God is telling us is, no, I know everything. I know, yet I still love you. I still want you. You're my bride. I don't know. How does that make you guys feel? Any comments about that? That he knows us completely, yet despite the thoughts that we have that we're unworthy and I'm never going to be
I
good enough, he loves us anyways.
I really love that, because there's another one where Jesus and his disciples were building a crop for a poor farmer, and when they were done building the crop, the disciples, after they were done, Jesus came and talked to the man, the poor farmer, and the man said, if you only knew who I was, you have not helped me. And he said, I was somebody that, robbed another man and took his things. And And Jesus said, I know, but I still love you and I still care about you. And the man that was robbed, I care about him too. So it's like, it's just beautiful that since God is Jesus, that's proof that God already knew, yet still decided to help produce crop for that farmer, which is
Right.
amazing. And that's kind of the resemblance in our life that sometimes we go, oh, I done something and there's no way anybody could forgive me, but yet you can forgive yourself is the biggest thing. And God knows that you have the capability of forgiving yourself. So that's what God is ultimate forgiveness and love.
Yeah. And that, thanks, Michael, for sharing that. That was taken from The Chosen, the video series, The Chosen. And the reason why they did the crop is because this guy hurt his leg and he wasn't able to do that for himself. So Jesus, with his disciples, did it for him. And so, yeah, that was a beautiful. I remember that. All right, very good. So let's go to day 4, and this identity is that I am his adopted. Ephesians 1:5, he predestined us to adoption as sons through Jesus Christ to himself, according to the kind intention of his will. In ancient Rome, adoption had a powerful meaning. When a child was born biologically, the parents had the option of disowning the child for a variety of reasons. Therefore, some relationships were not necessarily desired by the parent nor permanent. So apparently, digressing here, the Romans, I mean, they were pretty brutal sometimes. And for example, if they wanted a boy but they had a girl, they would basically say, "All right, you're on your own." It was pretty horrible. However, if a child was adopted, this changed all of that. In Jesus' time, the Romans' term for adoption meant, one, that the child was freely chosen by the parents and desired by the parents. And number two, that child would be a permanent part of the family. Parents could not disown a child they adopted. Unlike the biological one, if they decided to adopt it, then they couldn't disown that child regardless. So an adopted child received a new identity. Any prior commitments, responsibilities, and debts were erased. New rights and responsibilities were taken on. Also, in ancient Rome, the concept of inheritance was part of life, not something that began at death. Being adopted made someone an heir to their father, joint sharers in all his possessions, and fully united to them. Right? So adoption had some pretty powerful laws and restrictions behind it, which benefited the adoptee. So this is also true in our culture today. Full rights and privileges for the adopted as being part of that family. The good news is that this is a perfect picture of your adoption. You have been given every right and the full inheritance from God. Paul tells us in Romans 8 that you are joint heirs with Christ. He is your brother and God is your father. You have every right that Jesus had because God has freely given it to you. Here is the extent as to what was given to you as his adopted child. Romans 8 says, he who did not spare his own son, but delivered him over for us all, how will he also not freely give us all things? Okay, so just like the Romans, that adopted child would be given all the rights and privileges, that has also been given to us, just like it was given to our brother Jesus, right? So now Jesus is our sibling. He's our brother. God would rather bankrupt heaven than live without you. Jesus would rather go to hell and back than to live without you. Everything that Jesus has is yours. Everything that you have is his. This includes your sin, your debt, your shame, your self-condemnation, all of it. He took everything upon himself, all that we could never pay, and a future that was only full of desperation. God took all of that and then adopted you into his family. So he erased all that debt, all that, whatever that garbage was, and he took care of all that and then said, I've adopted you into my family. God reached down from heaven and said, you are my special treasure. I have adopted you and you are my child. I will provide all of your needs because I'm rich and full of love. You are with me forever. There is nothing you can do to change that. He has bound himself to us. We are his adopted. I am his adopted. Any comments on that one before we move on? All right, now we move to his body. I am his body. 1 Corinthians 12:27 says, now you are Christ's body and individually members of it. So think of your amazing body from head to toe, how your body functions perfectly. You hardly have to take care of your internal organs. For example, without even asking, your heart beats continually 60 to 70 times a minute. Without even asking, your cells are reproducing, skin, brain, blood, hair, working beautifully, supplying what every part of your body needs from head to toe, 24/7. We don't even have to ask, right? That's the amazing part. That's our body internally. Then the external body parts, arms, hands, fingers, legs, feet, toes, all operate sometimes automatically, then other times under your control. For example, when you're walking, you don't have to tell yourself, okay, right foot, then left foot, right, left. You just do it automatically. Another example is driving a car. Your whole body is engaged. Your leg, your foot, your arms, your hands, your eyes, your ears, all working perfectly in unison. However, there's also times that there are times you drive automatically and others where you're fully engaged because of heavy traffic, right? So you're just driving through your subconscious mind. You're just driving and your body reacts accordingly. You're not having to think too much about it unless you get into heavy traffic, right? So we are made in the image of God. Genesis 1:26 says, then God said, let us make man in our own image and our likeness. So God created man in his image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. So when God created Adam from the dust of the ground, he had himself in mind. He created a being in which he could live within. What I mean by this is he always knew he would indwell all humankind in flesh. He would reside in you as his body. So he designed a body in such a way for him to live in his creation. We are given a quote unquote, a God suit, which is pretty amazing. So right now, right, I am God in the flesh because God is dwelling within me, right? I'm not the God who created me, but I am a creation of God's and he's dwelling within me. And this is his flesh suit, if you will, the God suit. Maybe you've never thought of it this way, but you are God's body. Your arms, your hands, your feet are his because he is in you by way of Holy Spirit. In fact, you even have the mind of Christ, 2 Corinthians 2:16. Now we ask ourselves, where does he begin and where do I end? As stated earlier, there are some body parts we control and others we don't. They just run automatically if we allow them. So if you take your right hand, you can easily say, that's me. Yeah, that's Doug. But after reading this section, you now know this is also God's hands because he indwells you by way of Holy Spirit, right? So is this God's hand or is this my hand? What is it? So pay attention to the statement because this is very important. Who is controlling your hand? Right? Is it Doug controlling your hand or is it God controlling your hand? if you're using your hand, if what you are using your hand for is anything related to love, which is God, he's controlling your hand. Love is the very purpose for which it was created. So this suit, this body suit, my eyes, my ears, my mouth, all of it was designed for love. It was created to be loved and to love. If it is anything outside of love, then it is you taking back control of using it for the purpose which it was not created for, right? So if you use your right hand to, and I'll use the word slap somebody, that's pretty prominent right now in our media, right? You slap somebody or you hurt somebody, or your voice says words which are out of anger and hatred. That's not out of love. So what you've done is you've taken the voice that God has given you to express love, and you're using it under the name of Doug versus the name of God, because it's not coming from a loving place. So the same test. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I just wanted to say the way I like to view it is God being this everlasting love energy that doesn't change. But what this does is this energy it wants to experience and go through living things, and I believe that you're right 100%. God has experienced life through us. That's the way I like to think of it, is just we are a new creation, but God's love continues to experience new creation. When a child is born, that is a new creation for God to experience. And when our mind, we can decide, hey, guess what? You're right. I do want to live a peaceful life and I am one with God. Then you start to realize all the effects and powers that you can have when you join yourself with God. And that's the way I look at it is we may not be the creator of the earth, but our energy, our love that's within us was there when the earth was created. If you get it, we're just new creations, new experiences. If you made a creation like human form, wouldn't you want to be like, oh, Bob was created today and he's new and unique and different, and I want to experience that through him. And it's that connection, yet that energy has always been around. So technically we were the ones that created Earth because we are that energy. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, that's because, right, the energy that created the universe is coursing through our veins.
Exactly.
Right.
And our minds are powerful enough, are so powerful. God made our minds so unique, our brains so unique, that we have the ability to be like, hey, yes, I do, love God, or, yes, I want God to be a part of my life and I want to learn about the hundredfold. Religion, unfortunately, is something that is a forceful nature that our brains go, oh, that's something I can connect to. But then you realize down the line it's fear, and it's, teaching fear and not teaching about love, which is the ultimate energy.
That's right. Yeah, because God is love. God's love is constantly being poured out on all flesh, right? And whether we're awakened to that or not, that's the question. Have our eyes been opened, or are we continuing in our blindness? Because God does call us blind, but we need to be awakened to that. So right now, Michael, to your point, there's 7 billion people on the planet, and God is in each and every one of them and experiencing their life through him or with him. But he's always talking to us, right? Loving, right? But are we listening to that voice? Are we, because he'll tell us the things that we should or should not do through love, right? Because love will guide us. He does not want us to harm ourselves. He always wants what's best for us. But the question is are we listening? And then the way we determine that, whether we're listening or not, is, am I using this hand for love, or am I using it for harming someone outside of love. And the way we get to experience God fully is when we love, because when we love, that is God. So
Right. But too, Doug, that determines on how you're brought up and stuff like that as well. Because, love to me when I was growing up was protecting my family, hurting somebody, being able to protect the family physically. Um, that was a way of showing love when I grew up, but showing love with the way that God actually shows love, it's kind of like how my grandpa did it. Yeah, we had to go to church and go do this and all that, the way they did it. Um, but there's like a confusion on that love aspect of that. I protected my mom because I loved her. That's the way I felt. However, now I look at it as the protection that I did, that wasn't really true love. That was just, I don't know, just
well, it was reacting out of your fear, right? So
okay.
fear caused you to do that versus love. Now,
Okay.
it's not to say that love can't be hard sometimes, meaning not hard. Sometimes we have to speak the truth in love. We have to tell people the errors that they're, saying the wrong things or doing the wrong things. Love expresses that. Jesus mentioned that to the scribes and the Pharisees, right? Where he said that, it would be better if a milestone, a stone would be around your neck and cast into the sea because you're teaching people the wrong things.
Right.
And he was saying that from a place of love, even though it was very hard for them to hear. So I'm not saying we don't say things, but we say it out of love.
Can I say something? I think what Lonnie was really trying to say was when he was younger growing up, he had to be a man for his family and protect his family physically. He might have been from a rougher area or something and had to protect his family physically. And that's the way he had to show love. And the answer to that is Jesus went into a temple and flipped over tables.
Yeah.
That was out of love. That was out of protection. That was out of protection for them, saying, hey, this isn't a temple to gamble. This is a temple to, find inner peace. And so sometimes things have to get, I'll protect my family too, physically. That's not evil or bad. That's out of love, but the other thing is protecting your family and being able to forgive the person that would ever harm your family is also a sign of love.
Yeah. Absolutely. You're right, Mike.
So, so God, just reminding ourselves, right? God isn't out there somewhere. He's not in heaven waiting for you to call upon his name. God is your very breath. He is in you, with you, as you. So just as you cannot separate yourself from your body, right? Doug's in here. I can't step outside and say, that's not me. Same thing, nor God can separate himself from you. It's a permanent residence. You are one body. Here are some verses to help cement this in your mind. John 14 says, in that day you will know that I am in my Father, you are in me, and I am in you. And then Ephesians says, having also believed, you are sealed in him with the Holy Spirit of promise. He is so committed to being in you that he sealed himself into you. Sealed is the same word that was used when Jesus was laid at the tomb, and the seal of the emperor was placed on the stone, so no one could get in and no one could get out. So he had his seal. That's the same word. We've been sealed with God's Spirit within us. He ain't going anywhere. So
and that reminds me of just the whole saying of trust in the Lord with all your heart and not lean on your own understanding, and submit in all your ways, and he will guide your path straight. Yep. In the last 2 months, yesterday, that popped in my head when I was taking the trash out, and I haven't heard it within me in a long time. But it showed me that my inner voice yesterday was God speaking to me. Just, I know where you're at right now, son.
Yep.
I got you, but you have to remember this.
Wow, Lonnie, you actually just really said something there that I hadn't picked
for
up
the first time.
in a long time. I haven't picked up that lean not into your own understanding. And I believe now what that means is the understanding of separation from God, because trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not into your own understandings, which could be sometimes we think that we are separated from God. I don't know. I thought that, because I used to think, don't lean into your own understandings mean don't believe what you think, believe what God only thinks, but that could be different. I don't know.
Right. Well, you know what I take from that is because I used to lean on my own understanding. I just said it a little bit ago, I was brought up, protecting was this way. That was leaning on my own understanding. I didn't have
Right.
God at that time.
Right.
Well, I did, but I didn't have it like I recognize him now.
Yep.
So that's where that difference is. But it also took me on, even with going on that walk yesterday, that's, it came to me just, I kept asking the guy, man, you gonna take me out there, kill me, throw me in a ravine or something, my bad thoughts, stinking thinking, but he was actually showing me how to get out there and robust again and be, human and, all of that, just a whole bunch of different things. So that's where that phrase, when it came back to me, was just trust in the Lord, and not lean on my own understanding. My own understanding was, man, something's going to happen to me. Do I got to protect myself? But then I let it go
Nice.
and submitted, to all his ways. So if something was going to happen to me, then it was going to happen regardless. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Whether it's today, tomorrow, that day, that moment, however, I got to get out of that fear of being able of trusting others again and going out with them and what they're going to do. But now that is an understanding of where that I got to make a choice too of who I'm going out with or who I'm not. What kind of people am I hanging around with? So.
Right. And allowing your friend to stretch you like that, and knowing that you were okay, and he stretched you, so that all worked out.
Well,
So again,
it takes you out of a fear. And here's why I'll say this. Sorry, Doug. Growing up, I hung around the wrong crowd. I guess that's the way you say it. I hung around the wrong crowd. Who's to say that they aren't even, doing better than I am right now? Who's to say that they didn't change their life too? I don't know. But I can't live my life off of that. And that's kind of the fear that's there, is, am I better than the people that I used to hang around with? Did I come out better, or did they, and that's none of my concern. I have no control over that.
Your only, and I'll use the word job, your only job or role is to love on them, is to think thoughts of love. And if it's difficult, then I think I heard you say earlier, right? You don't know what they've been through, what their life has been, right?
Yeah.
And what caused them to be that way. So through knowing that everyone has their own story, you can kind of grant them forgiveness, if you will, and just see them through the eyes of love.
We all have our differences, and
That's right.
it's I think that's God's unique way of making us unique.
Yeah,
Matter.
and then giving us the ability to make a choice to love others the way that God has made a choice to love us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My friend Isaiah, he told me, he goes, Lonnie, man, he goes, look, you're a pretty good dude. He goes, I don't know why you think that you're not. He goes, yeah, I've heard your story. I know what's going on. He goes, but you're still a person of God.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, there's nothing that you've done, anything that is wrong that he won't accept. He goes, but what have you done to change it or do things, that apprehend your mind to be able to look at things differently than what you used to see.
Right.
So that's where this all comes in with the seen and unseen.
That's right. Renewing our mind. And rather than us going back to that picture, right? Rather than us looking at our current situation and circumstances and who we think we are and all the damaged self that we have, we're looking at it from the outside in versus the inside out. No, I am the bride. I am his body. I have been chosen. I am adopted. And
well,
we still have the habit of condemning our flesh, because God is ultimate forgiveness.
Yep.
God, if you think about this, somebody, I just heard, went through their whole life of doing nothing but crime, and he got to the end of his life and he had cancer, and he asked his daughter, hey, do you think God will ever forgive me for doing those things that I've done in my life? And she said yes. And what I believe that is I believe that sometimes we get fearful because we go, oh, our flesh is going to be, condemned, and it's going to, burn. But the truth is God is everlasting energy that doesn't change. So yes, we're always forgiven. God just wants us to forgive ourselves.
Yes, there you go.
Okay, so
Yeah.
don't
That's
laugh
where you
at me
find the
when
inner
I say
peace.
this. Uh, when I look at the prince or that princess, the bride dress, when I see her, I have now another different view than what I used to have. It was perfection then, but what I look at now is coming from a male state. It actually gives me the perspective to show that yes, I'm Jesus's bride, but I'm a man, so how could I be a man's pride?
Yeah,
So
bride. Yeah, female.
with that being said, what I'm looking at, what I see with that picture is it has shown me to tone down my manhood, my pride, my ego, all of that, and to recognize that even though I'm a male, I can be in touch with my feminine side and understand the woman that I'm with or the bride. Because to me, actually, when it comes to the bride, she is my backbone too. And, Jesus did, or God did take a rib for me to give to her, but do you get where I'm going with this? I feel that it's finally got me in touch, and to be able to understand a woman better than I think I understand of what I grew up with and knowing and
Yeah.
seeing.
Yeah, so now you're looking at it through a different pair of eyes, a different set of eyes, rather than the eyes of, I'll call it Lonnie, right? The flesh eyes, right? You're judging and you're doing all these things, and now you're seeing it through God's eyes, through the eyes of love, and it changes everything.
Yeah,
Changes the way you
it
view
get
yourself and other people.
exactly that's where I was going with that. Yeah, it's I get to see myself differently, and I also get to understand the woman a little bit differently too.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know that rather than I see my mom as a tough act, but I see a lot of these women nowadays, they're tough act, independent, all that, but there is still an emotion inside them as well that they want to be loved just as well.
Mhm.
But men like to take control, and I'll say that as for myself, control every situation. We're gonna make it through this. We're gonna do all that, but it doesn't help if you don't have that companionship. So having that companionship, that loyalty with God gives you that loyalty to understand the woman that you're with too, to give her, you know, to understand her perspective on what she sees in the deal too. I never looked at it like that,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
your opinion matters. It's me. No, it don't. I got to do this. I have to.
Gotcha. Yep. Very nice.
But reality of looking at it now is just God has the whole ultimate perspective, and he places in our lives what is there, and it's up to us to feel his love and be able to project that love back out to them. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Comes down to a choice. Are we
removing my
choosing
roadblocks. Yeah,
to
there you go.
truly believe that? Yeah. So what we need to do is remove the roadblocks to believing that these are true, and really what it comes down to is there's a humility, a willingness, and allowing for that to happen. Because sometimes, a lot of the time, we're stubborn, right? Just like the scribes and the Pharisees. No, you can't tell me this. I don't believe that, or I'm too proud to be. I'm too proud, and I've built my life the way it is, and this is just the way I am. Right? There's a humility that needs to take place that just allows that love just to come in and flow, and you have to be humbled. You have to be willing to let that happen. You can't be set in your ways and says, no, this is the way I always am, I'm never going to change. Then you're stopping God's love from flowing in and through you, and doing the things that he created you to do, which is to love other people. But in order to remove those roadblocks, you got to spend time, and you have to ask the questions why. Why do I believe that I don't deserve to be this bride? Ask the whys, ask those questions, and get to the root of it, and then allow God to change that in you. Because this is the way he does view us. All right, so that's our session for today. You can find the 21 Days of Identity on our website, which is the100foldjourney.com. And under there, you will find a section called Challenges. And there'll be 21 Days of Identity and 21 Days of Gratitude. So I'd highly suggest you go back and you can review all of this and make it a 20-day journey. Each one of these truths, the idea here is each one of these truths, you think about, you meditate upon it throughout the whole day. Right? And knowing that you're his body and just experiencing that through the day. So that's the challenge, and it's on our website. And as usual, we talk about the 30, 60, and 100-fold. And the 30-fold basically says, yeah, I'm a dirty, rotten sinner. There's no way that I can be God's body, right? If I sin, then he's going to be removed and I have to confess my sins, et cetera, et cetera. But 100-fold believes that we are complete. There's nothing that's needed. And it's just recognizing that it's already in us. So the difference there is one is work-based and one is rest-based. So we need to be out of a state of rest. There's nothing that we need to do in order to be who we already are. It's already been given to us. It's a gift. But then we have to ask ourselves the question, how good is God? The way you answer that determines your yield. Is God really that good where he would make me his bride and make me pure and holy and blameless and then indwell me and live this life with me, through me, as me? Hey, if it's 100-fold, then it's like absolutely, and you just rest in it and enjoy it. If it's 30-fold, there's still some work that you need to do. Each one of them has a yield, a crop, if you will, but 100-fold, I would prefer the 100-fold. Again,
Hey,
continue.
Doug,
Yes.
let me ask you this. When we talk about the 100-fold, that's like stating that, I guess the way I'm taking it is that you let go and God is going to do what he does no matter what. That's the rest based, right? Cast out all the fears.
Yes and
everything.
no. So there's still, so the illustration is in Mark chapter 4, and it talks about the farmer who sows seeds, right? And the seeds are our desires, the things that we want, right? And when that farmer sows the seed
Right.
of the things that we want, then we've done our job. Now God does his job, where then it grows by itself. How it grows, when it grows, we do not know, but we, from a state of rest, know that if I planted a corn seed, then a corn crop is going to come up. How it grows, we know not how.
Can I say a verse?
It's a mystery. So Lonnie, to your point, is we're co-creators with Christ, right? He's given us rule and reign over this earth to create the life that I want, right? He's given me the desire and the power to be able to choose the life that I want. What happens is these voices come inside that says, no, you're not worthy, you can't do that, you're not good enough, right? So I have to push those out and see from my true identity. And then when I plant those seeds of my desires, and let's just say it's corn, then I know that corn is going to grow because that's the seed that I planted. That's where the co-creation comes in.
Okay. So you can have, it can be happen to where that you are 100-fold, but yet you also grab down to the 60-fold just due to because you're not totally rested in him, or is
correct. That's why if you notice in the picture, the blue line doesn't go all the way across. It's not a solid line.
Yeah.
Right. There are times where we do drop down to a 60 or 100 or 30-fold where we say, oh my gosh, I'm really nervous about this. Does God really have my back? Is this really going to happen? And then through our own strength and our own efforts, we reach out like Adam and Eve, right, with our own hand and think, I need to do something to make this happen, to make this corn seed grow. And you squeeze and you work hard at it. But really the place needs to come from rest. So that means also the 30-fold can come up to the 100-fold and come from a state of rest. So that's why it's open, because it does, we do fluctuate, right?
Okay.
We're not 100%, we're not 100-fold all the time.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I just wanted to read a one is, as what was sown on good soil, which in my opinion is positive thoughts,
Yep.
positive thinking. This is one who hears the word and understands it. He indeed bears fruit and yields, in one case 100-fold, another 60, and another 30. And what I've come to the thinking is there's no ranking of who's better, who's worse. Every person that even met Jesus had to come to their own, point where they go, oh, okay, I get it. Freedom is inside. Mary, one of his disciples, was an alcoholic, and she went back to drinking. In the Chosen, at least, it showed this, went back to drinking, and Jesus pretty much said, it's like, you're always one. Even when you're drinking, you're always one. You're always loved. Pretty much saying, I'm always with you. You don't have to go, oh no, I did this against God, and I did this against Jesus, and I'm such a terrible person. It wasn't that. I was once 30-fold, yet I would have told you I was 100-fold, and now I'm 100-fold. Not saying I was better or worse. It's just I feel happier. I feel better. I feel less afraid than I was when I was in the 30 and 60-fold. And when you recognize that you don't feel afraid anymore, like my dad said, if you're reacting to the same things that you used to react to out of negativity, then you really haven't found that inner peace. But if you react different to the old situations and go, hey, you know what, I'm inner peace, I don't have to deal with that anymore, then you've kind of gotten out of you have gotten out of 30 and 60-fold, because you're bearing fruit. You're bearing a lot of fruit, and the fruit is positive thoughts, love, and all understanding and all that.
Hey, when you said it, I asked Mike, when I back in the day, man, I asked a question to a pastor. And this is where I get from the 100 and the 60-fold, and even from the 30-fold. Just there was a jump, and I always had this in my heart and in my mind, and I always wanted to ask the pastor, how is it that you just stopped working in this world, and then you all of a sudden become a pastor and you have a fabulous house? That was my question. The pastor said, you can't just stop believing. And I go, but how do you get paid? How do you take care of your family? How can I stop right now from being a truck driver or a mechanical worker or a laborer or whatever, and go into pastoring and have a home like you have? And he goes, you just have to believe, and it just isn't given to you. I never really understood that.
Because he's looking at the physical. Yeah, this teaching of 100-fold is looking at the inside instead of the out. Like he probably was thinking, hey, you're given this, you have to work hard, because that's how he was raised. Yet if you were to really get to know him, probably then you could probably find some, a little bit of sadness in there, a little bit of loneliness in there. But the teaching here is to find out that big house that you want is inside your heart, and whatever is given to you is kind of how you feel about yourself inside. If you go, oh, well, I'm sad today, and, I'm not going to get this, then the chances are is that you've already killed the creation inside of you. So to that thing is, he didn't just go from, having no job to being a preacher. He had an inspiration. He had a mindset like, hey, I this is a passion of mine. And he believed in it. And he was probably telling you, like, I just believed in my passion. And, we don't know where that money came from.
Well,
You know,
that
could've
would
came
make
from
sense.
anywhere.
If he would have said it just like you're saying it right now, I think I would have had more belief in that individual, but like I say, so it's that way of things, and the way you just said it right now, it's probably what I expected back then to hear from him. But that's not what I heard. But it's I see and work base, and what you believe in, I become the person that is I have no control whatsoever, and this is all God's universe and everything. My life is His.
So Lonnie, you actually have more control than you think. And that's the thoughts that you have and the heart where the seed is planted. So when your mind and your thoughts and your emotions are what is creating. So you have more control than you think.
Is this all the
Because
stuff you're supposed to learn in high school?
but God has given us all of these tools because He wants to create through us, right? So you have more control, more power than you give yourself credit for. And that goes with the good as well as the bad, right? And that's what's a little, and I'll use the word scary. It's a little scary to know that I can create negative situations and consequences. No, it's not God punishing me, but it's the choices that I'm making. And I can see that for the positive things too, right? When good things are coming, that's why life is a mirror, which reflects back what you truly believe and think. If you think that life is going to be hard and you're going to get sick and you're going to lose your job or whatever, then that is what you are creating, because life is a mirror. So you're getting reflected back what you truly believe and think. If you think that life is easy and money flows to me easily and naturally, all my needs are constantly met, I'm always at the right place at the right time, then those are the experiences that are going to be reflected back to you. And that's all within your control, the control that God has given you.
I absolutely got exactly what you're saying right now. Yeah.
But it starts with your thinking and the condition of your heart, right?
Yeah, because there'll be days, that I'll be like, oh man, what's going on? This ain't working. And I'll get into my own stinking thinking. And then I'll be
That's
like,
right.
hold on, wait a minute.
That's
You
right.
still got to let God go through with what He's doing. So yeah, that's why I'm asking between the 160 fold, because I believe that I keep falling back and forth to that.
Yep. And that's part of
Okay.
the growing process. So don't give yourself a hard time. Don't beat
Okay.
yourself up. Just accept it for what it is and just say, thank you. My eyes are open. And then you just change, right? You
Yeah.
change. You don't say, oh, I'm never going to do that again. What you do is you replace it with something different, right? You don't just, I'm never going to have that thought again. What you do is you say, I'm not going to have that thought again, and I'm going to replace it with this one. This is why identity is so important, is because you're reminding yourself of who you are. So rather than saying, I'm a dirty, rotten sinner, I'm going to be good. I'm going to do all the right things. I'm going to think all the right thoughts. Well, you remind yourself that you're the bride and that God's Spirit is within you, and then those thoughts come automatically. It's like, why wouldn't I think these thoughts? So they replace the old with the new. All right, we're running really long, so the 10 truths, continue to work on that. Here's our website, the100foldjourney.com. And then, of course, you can always join us on Facebook. And if you have any questions, you can reach out through that medium. So everybody, thank you for your time. Thank you for your great comments and observations. Really appreciate that. And we will see you next week. And that's it for this morning. Bye for now.
Hey, thank you. Good to be back with you this weekend.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lonnie.
All right, Doug.